Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. We've got a very exciting webinar planned for you today. My name is Gavin Cutler. I am the head of product marketing at Apptio, focused on our IT financial management and strategic portfolio management products. And today we're going to be joined by Keith and David from Accenture, and we'll get to some introductions in just a minute. But before we dive in, really just wanted to set some context about what we're going to be discussing today. And as everybody knows, it's been the hot topic at every single IT and technology conference, the fact that technology investment, especially AI, is accelerating, and it's accelerating rapidly. And today we want to explore how technology business management, or TBM, can help organizations bring much needed clarity, rigor, and business focus to their AI investments. Right now, with a lot of enterprises investing heavily in AI, from copilots and automation to Gen AI platforms and advanced analytics, there's a lot of excitement, but there comes a major challenge. How do they measure the value from these AI investments? How do they understand where the money is going, what outcomes are being achieved, and whether these investments are aligned to key business priorities? That's where TBM becomes incredibly important. And as AI adoption increases, organizations that will succeed will not just be the ones that are deploying the most AI, but will be the ones that are managing AI investments with discipline, insight, and a clear understanding of business impact. And really, that's where we would like to see TBM and where TBM plays today. Now, our agenda today is going to cover all of this and more. We'll kick it off with a panel discussion, and then we'll wrap it up with some Q&A from the audience. With that, let me introduce and welcome our panelists. So Keith and David, I'll turn it over to the both of you.
Perfect. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. My name is Keith Barthmas. I'm a principal director in our value practice at Accenture. We work with executives throughout the globe and try to solve problems that we're going to be discussing today. I'm a longtime TBM practitioner and have been part of the TBM Council for just over 12 years now. Very deeply embedded in this community and looking forward to making more connections through this effort. David?
Yeah. Hi, folks. David Lugassi here. I've been with Accenture over a decade out of the technology strategy practice. Similar to Keith, my main agenda at Accenture is to help technology leaders and CIOs with developing their strategy or improving their cost profile or creating efficiencies and productivity gains. So super excited to have this fireside chat here with Gavin and Keith, and looking forward to getting into it.
Perfect. And thank you again both for joining us and lending your expertise in this critical area. Really want to dive right in here. And so to get started, what we're seeing is that many organizations are investing more across their technology portfolio, with Apptio's latest survey showing 74% of organizations increasing IT budgets in 2026. However, many of them are struggling to consistently turn that spend into business value or understand the realized business value. And from your perspective, where does technology business management help these leaders bring discipline and clarity to those investment decisions?
Yeah, it's a great way to start this off. I think first thing is TBM does, first thing that TBM will do is help leaders move from how much they're spending, that 74% increase, to what are we trying to accomplish, and is the investment mix aligned to the ambition of the company? This is a really big distinct point to make out, I would say, because technology spend is no longer isolated within IT. We've all experienced a shadow IT spend continuing to grow in the advent of AI today. From our perspective, I'd say TBM gives executives a consistent way to connect strategy, spend, and outcomes. It creates transparency into where investments are going, what value they're expected to create, and where the trade-offs need to be made. It's especially important as budgets increase, because the answer is not simply more spend, it's the right spend with the right governance and the right ROI expectations. So we see this becoming really powerful as companies start shifting from project by project optimization to a portfolio level management that really allows leaders to start looking at all of their investments through a common lens. David, do you have any insights around this as well?
Sure, a couple thoughts here. Our clients are hyper aware of the market and their competition getting to that next frontier of digitally enabled businesses and strategies. And leaders are spending a lot of money in technology, hoping to fail fast and innovate. And like he said, what TBM is trying to help solve is to put things in true business acumen. Where are their investments going, and how can I create measure the value that's being created to either double down or course correct. And with the scale we're seeing technology consumption increasing, it's no longer something boards and executives can visit quarterly. It needs to be more real time. It needs to have clear decision-making ability to get that the most return on investment from their technology.
That's perfect. I noticed, you both mentioned that idea of understanding the investments and understanding where they need to make those trade-offs, which really lends well to our next question. And that is really around the fact that AI, it remains this top innovation and investment priority, but 67% of organizations are now reallocating internal capital, 45% reinvesting AI-driven efficiency gains, and 43% are creating dedicated innovation funds. Funding decisions are now becoming sharper, they're becoming more visible, which is why AI investment management has moved into the boardroom. And with that foundation in mind, I want to talk about AI specifically. To get us started, can you help us level set for the audience? Why is AI investment management suddenly a board level issue, especially as organizations either struggle to scale AI or potentially risk control or losing control of their overall spend with AI?
It's an ever increasing discussion. I'd say AI has really elevated the technology investment conversation overall. It's no longer just an efficiency lever or technology cycle. At Accenture, we believe AI is a reinvention moment. It has the potential to really reshape operating models and customer experiences and workforce productivity, which is what most people are thinking, but all kinds of sources of competitive advantage. That's why boards are no longer asking, are we experimenting with AI? What they want to understand is, are we getting the value, and how are we going to scale that value? Are we controlling risks? It introduces a different investment profile than many of our legacy technology programs. Many of these costs can scale quickly and sometimes unpredictably. That's kind of the state that we're at now. We're seeing a lot of challenges around token management. So to de-risk you that balances innovation with financial discipline, they need to make sure that they keep the human in the lead and leverage AI to really drive accountability, better judgment, better decisions without replacing the people. David, what's your perspective on this?
Yeah, like he said, right? AI innovation has made clients realize this is not just an enterprise technology challenge. It's not just shifting workloads to the cloud or decoupling their mainframe. It's reinventing a long history of business and operational workflows, which is opening a door for a lot of new possibilities. And because of this, leaders are forced to revisit their long-term plans and figure out how they could take advantage of AI. And for those who know, right, changing the direction of a ship is not an easy feat, even before AI came into play. So strategic portfolio management paired with agility, paired with value-focused leaders are becoming a mandatory skill set for these organizations. And they have to make rapid, informed decisions so they can maximize the return on these AI investments while still having that sense of control.
I think that's a great point. It's all around the fact that the costs are going up, the investments are there, and this concept of enacting good governance. And to your point, David, you mentioned scenario planning, recalibrating forecasts, and making these portfolio level trade-offs. And that it sounds easy in execution, but it is much harder than it sounds. And as you can see from the stats here, 40% of leaders say that data silos have a major impact on their confidence in making these types of investment decisions. So as technology investments become more portfolio driven rather than a set of isolated initiatives, how should these executives be thinking about portfolio level visibility, and where or how does AI fit into that picture?
Yeah, I think executives need to see the full technology portfolio, what they've invested in, not just what's visible or what's the best funded program, but the entire portfolio. I think the key is linking each investment to a business objective, the expected outcome, and then follow through with the realized outcome. Once you have that structure in place, easier said than done, AI can be evaluated alongside other strategic investments, just being treated as a special category of spend. We all know and hear the board, throwing money or providing investment opportunities, much like back when cyber was just spend to make sure that we have proper security. But we all know that that spend can get unwieldy, and you've got to start tying it back to the rest of your portfolio in order to be effective. So it's important because we need to understand how AI investments compare to the other ways we use capital and our people and data and leadership attention overall. Portfolio level visibility will help leaders understand where their initiatives are stuck, where they're scaling, and where costs are over consuming. So they know where value is actually being realized along the way. David, have you managed much spend around this as it relates?
Yeah, for sure. And just to echo what Keith said, we do try to help our clients look at the entire picture. It's hard to address AI investments without looking at how it pairs against the rest of their portfolio and state. Those leaders are still own the tech debt of their systems and infrastructure, and they may not have benefited from the spend growth that other parts of the organizations might have had. So, those initiatives may have been put on the back burner, and we like to make sure we're looking at it holistically, because you need to be able to make those trade-offs and shift the mix out of that tech debt towards AI, because if you don't do so, it'll still limit your people, your resources, your interoperability, and at the end of the day, that is impacting the goals you might have set for your AI initiatives. And what it means in practicality is you need a proper operating model, especially with AI. Leaders need to be connected, but still delivering value autonomously. You want to be able to, deliver without breaking away from the entire system or mission, and you just can't optimize in pieces. You need to look at the whole, and that's why it's definitely a reinvention moment and something critical to look at as a holistic portfolio.
And you both touched on something very interesting there, and that was the idea of value. Keep coming back to it, aligning what the business objectives are, what they're actually deriving out of it. And one of the biggest challenges that we hear a lot, and I'm sure you both hear it as well, is this idea of outcome measurement. And so from your experience in working with clients, would love to understand how leading organizations are defining success for technology investments, and where does the modern technology footprint introduce new challenges or considerations for these organizations?
It's a good question. I think leading organizations are getting a lot more specific about what success looks like. The generic KPIs don't always tell the story. So we see people moving more towards use case specific value drivers. Like for AI, there's many different ones. You might see that one is tied to reduced cycle time. Really with a unit economics kind of view, I would say that there are more around customer conversion and better forecast accuracy. The use cases are different. So defining that value and the right measurement up front is really important. Then the discipline is established based on this baseline, I'd say, before the deployment. You need to know what your starting point is to credibly measure this, but you also want to make sure that you're checking in 90 days, 6 months, 12 months, at a regular basis to rebalance if needed. Modern technology footprint makes this more complex because value is not always linear. We know there's a lot of variability, especially with AI today. So those outcomes need to be treated as living metrics. They should be reviewed and recalibrated as usage, adoption, and the business conditions evolve. David?
Yeah, clients need a strong framework and taxonomy. I recently helped an organization take a hard look at what their business does and what capabilities truly drive revenue growth. And what it meant was, holding that technology investment accountable to the growth that they're trying to achieve. And we had to have some really serious, difficult discussions to get leaders to align on what their portfolio of capabilities truly means in the company's grand scheme. And what this meant was, like Keith alluded to, was we had to attach some clear OKRs and KPIs against those capabilities to see how that investment is truly moving the needle. And many times after looking deep into organization resources, labor is always the biggest driver of spend. And they realize quickly that a lot of the labor goes into maintaining some of that legacy tech debt or legacy systems. So you really need to be able to see that quickly and know where that spend's going. So you make sure the capabilities you're investing into are market differentiating. And I think that draws on why you need TBM and strategic portfolio management and these clear outcomes to really start helping companies paint that clear picture so they know how and if they're trying to get to their long-term goals that they set out to do.
That's perfect. That's great. I appreciate the insights there. A really good call out, the fact that it's not a linear conversation. They've got to have a very clear and well-defined roadmap. And I mean, I think those are both really salient, great points about how it needs to be structured and how we can drive a lot of these outcomes. Now, I want to shift it a little bit over to the idea of forecasting and forecasting technology costs, because this has become a lot more challenging, especially with cloud and now the advent of AI. And we know that 45% of leaders are already saying that they only have a slight to moderate confidence forecasting their overall cloud spend. And when it comes to AI specifically, about 44% of them say they're just beginning to explore how to manage AI and machine learning cloud costs. So obviously there is quite a big chasm as far as where the needs and the expectations are. And with that context, would love to understand, again, from your experience and background, how you're seeing organizations improving forecasting accuracy while still moving fast and not limiting innovation.
Yeah, Gavin, I think forecasting challenges typically aren't new within IT, but certainly cloud, as you mentioned, amplified them. And I'd say we're in another period where AI is even further amplifying them. AI behaves less like traditional capital spend and much more like cloud spend, but the variability we're seeing is even greater today. So as that cost profile can change quickly, we want to make sure that we understand that single point forecast is really fragile. They can become outdated very quickly. So I think organizations are improving accuracy through not relying on trying to predict everything perfectly, but using scenario-based planning with more frequent calibration and clear financial guardrails. So they're asking questions like what happens if adoption doubles, and what happens if use cases move into production faster than expected, or questions that may lead to that variability impact. So that gives leaders early visibility and the ability to course correct while still allowing teams to move quickly. This is something that's going to continue to evolve, in my opinion. And David, I'm sure you're trying different angles as you're working with your clients. Can you share some of what you've done?
Yeah, when I think about forecasting, to me, it's about being agile, right? Organizations don't want heavy stage gates and long lead times for approvals. You need to have educated assumptions and ability to change, right? You don't want to starve that forecasting ability in trying to be perfect. And what that means is you need a model, you need a framework to help you normalize demand and the value proposition. I've seen the role of enterprise architecture really step up in this domain, right? You need to arm a function with the ability to see and make forecasts and estimate the impact of tech change. This is no longer something of just trying to figure out a technology solution. They're also trying to solve a financial equation as well as they make these very hefty decisions and start trying to model what the impact of this technology change could be. And like I said, it takes continuous governance. What I've known to be true in my time of helping companies implement more product or agile-based operating models, planning, feedback, course correction, it's all needed now in delivering technology. And what that means is having high touch collaboration with business, between business and technology, which many a times our organizations struggle with. So both sides of the fence need to be able to see what those trends are and quickly adjust before it's too late along their path and their journey.
That makes sense. And you've brought up governance a few times, and obviously the governance side is very important, but governance can also sometimes be synonymous with slowing down innovation or being a blocker. But would love to understand from your perspective, what does good financial governance look like for modern technology investments, and what's different about it when AI is involved? And it looks like we might have lost Keith, actually.
Okay, so I'll go ahead. So look, yep, governance. You're trying to look at something that enables sustainable speed, not just like you said, stopping delivery. Right, the need of clear guardrails helps remove the hesitation and helps foster innovation by giving those teams a bit of autonomously while still maintaining or staying within the boundaries of those guardrails. So some of that discipline helps figure out how to unfreeze budgets or prevent the slowdown of certain resources. So what's needed is clear ownership, right? Clear metrics and making sure you have that ability to make trade-offs. And what that means is, we believe in order to do so, it means AI needs still a human in the lead and having that human judgment when it comes to governance. And like I said, it's critical to have that accountable leadership in this space. Managing financials, being beholden to the value that they're trying to create, because like you said in your previous example, right? Clients easily fall back into their normal silos in their portfolios and their goals. And goals shouldn't be just an output of, widgets or, in terms of just their specific domain. We need a true business acumen and put things in a common language. So we're looking at value from more apples to apples, so that when you have governance, it's easy to see across different domains to make those trade-off decisions. And like I said, with a taxonomy, with TBM, it becomes mission critical to be able to see what value is coming out of your different tech investments. And hopefully with that, you're able to drive meaningful outcomes that get enabled with this governance model.
Perfect. That sounds great. And Keith, sorry that you've rejoined. Welcome back. We just finished up chatting through some of the role of governance, but really would love to bring this together for the audience, right? And now that you're back, Keith, this is perfect timing. So we've talked about this need for the right expertise, the right operating discipline to manage technology investments at scale. And from both of your experience, what does it take for organizations to operationalize everything that we've discussed today?
So I would say workforce readiness has to be a part of the investment decision from the beginning. AI value is not created just when technology is deployed, right? It takes people. So when you have it's created by people and the people adopt it and trust it, know how to use it, you've got to make sure you've got the right skill sets and the right mindset and the right culture for this adoption. So that means the skills, role design, change capacity, leadership alignment all affect time to value. If the organization's not ready to absorb that change, even a strong AI use case can underperform. So leading organizations are shifting teams towards value-first thinking. They're not asking, can we build this, but will people use it, and will it improve the work, and will it create measurable business value? As a capability matures, confidence to reinvest and scale increases. But it goes back again to making sure that you've got the right mindset, the right people, and the right skill sets to make it sustainable.
So to jump in here, like Keith, we've seen a lot of technology leaders struggle in gaining trust with their business counterparts. It's a reason, like you said at the beginning, why we see so much shadow IT. Many legacy organizations still treat the CIO office as an order taker, or has this perception of a slow enterprise function with rules and gates. Now, it's not like business doesn't have a hand in this narrative. I've seen many business organizations not consider the impacts of their decisions or change of direction it has on the technology teams. They tend to throw it over the wall and expect IT to manage or even foot the bill. And what TBM brings is a way for the CIO and its leaders to communicate what is actually happening in technology. This helps bridge that gap, create a data-driven approach for future decisions. And proper governance, operating model, and tooling is needed to unearth this challenge and to help those tech leaders become more of a strategic partner in their company and be able to bring together proper visibility and outcome delivery that really brings this partnership with business together.
No, I think that's great advice, and it's a really nice way to tie it all together. And would love to understand from your perspective, just what's one piece of advice that you'd give executives who want to advance technology business management and drive better outcomes from their technology and AI investments in the next 12 to 18 months, especially because AI is becoming a larger part of this technology mix?
Yeah, my advice, and I mentioned this earlier in the discussion, but it would be to treat technology investments as an enterprise portfolio, not as a series of disconnected initiatives. It's especially important as AI is becoming a larger part of the investment mix, and sometimes not even just sitting within IT. AI introduces more complexity and variability, and as mentioned, the urgency around value realization is important to maintain and sustain as well. But also encourage executives not to wait for perfect data. That's kind of an age-old challenge in getting this discipline in place, but start by creating enough transparency to make better decisions, and then build learning into the governance model. Align finance and technology and business leaders early. Define outcomes up front, measure value continuously, and be willing to stop low-value work so you can redirect capacity towards the initiatives that really do matter most. For AI specifically, I would frame it as an enterprise reinvention agenda, not a collection of pilots. The organization will create the most value are the ones that combine ambition with discipline. They'll scale what works, govern it responsibly, and manage it with the same rigor they would apply to any of the other investments that they've made in the past, and likely more so. That would be my advice, I'd say, to get started. David?
Yeah, I would echo what Keith said, right? It's about establishing a methodology, that taxonomy and framework to start getting those early insights, even if the data is not perfect. And to Keith's point, right, we see many organizations try pilots to get on their AI story and start building AI capabilities. And if you do so, and try to tackle AI in smaller bite-sized use cases, that methodology is useful there, right? You're able to adjust, adapt, make trade-offs between these use cases, or like you said, make it an enterprise reinvention story. Bring it all together with a clear, holistic vision for your company. So either approach works, but having that methodology and taxonomy is critical to both those, call it, approaches to AI. And like I said, it's not just a process problem or a tooling technology problem. It's also a people problem, right? You need those leaders, like we've talked about, to really be engaged and show their muscle in being agile. And having a process and methodology like this enables those leaders to make those stronger decisions. So, any way you shake it, I think it's about change, and it's about good change management. So I would recommend starting with that taxonomy and then scaling that across your different functions and domains.
That's great advice. And at this point, we do want to turn it over to see if there are any questions that we have from the audience. And so feel free, drop any questions that you might have into the chat. But while we wait for some of those to come in, I do have a couple of additional questions from my side, and would again love your expertise and your insights here. I know we chatted quite a bit around that idea of governance and how to make it effective within the organization. And in your opinion, what role does executive leadership play in making the investment governance effective without turning it into a full bureaucracy or becoming a blocker for the organization?
David, I'll start with this one. Maybe executives, they've got to make governance a value enabler and not just an approval layer. Their responsibility, I would say, would really be to set business priorities and risk appetite and funding guardrails and decision rights, but then enable the teams to manage this so that they have velocity and throughput in mind where they're able to accelerate time to value. So executives today really need to help enable enable that motion. Again, focusing on setting the clear business priorities, risk appetite, funding guardrails, and decision rights would be the role that I'd ask that they play.
Yeah, I would echo what Keith said. I've helped organizations transform their operating model to be more agile or to be more product and platform based. And like he said, what that takes is being clear on your objectives in business terms and having more guardrails and stage gates. So it really requires an organization to get out of, call it legacy ways of working, and really be adaptable to how they deliver and how they communicate, right? What governance sometimes can mean is a lot more planning involved or a lot more involvement from leadership, but we don't want that to be a useless or a time-consuming activity. If the governance is enabled with clear OKRs and KPIs that help normalize goals across different domains, it actually should start returning speed and a more autonomous delivery. So you are seeing more time, a quicker time to value, and you are seeing outcomes being delivered faster because you don't have to have checkpoints in terms of widgets and seeing slowdown. So it's all about maintaining speed while still having those guardrails in place. And to do that is, like he said, having clear objectives that can normalize where value is being created and realized across an entire organization.
Well, I think that's great. And you talking about how it grows and how it scales within the organization. And so as the AI does grow and it does scale, what signals should these leaders watch to know whether or not this AI investment is truly delivering value for the organization, or is potentially just turning into overhead costs for them?
This goes back to maybe an earlier question that you asked, Gavin, around setting the right metrics, right? This can't be your normal set of KPIs. What AI should be impacting are financial and business metrics that are meaningful for shareholders and customers alike. So really measuring that business impact, I'd say, along with adoption and sustainability, if they can tie back to what matters most. If they're working on an AI solution that's improving route optimization, then they want to look at a unit economic tied to cost per route. If you're an insurance company, it's a cost per claim, but you should see some relative productivity or performance uptick as a result of AI. If you're not seeing it and you're just seeing costs, then it's probably the wrong investment or the wrong solution or the wrong execution. And it's worthy of stepping back to discuss and make decisions going forward.
That's great.
David?
Yeah, I obviously echo what Keith's saying, and really it's not a new concept. The role of these leaders, you need to weigh different investments, that it be AI as well. You need a clear line of sight of, like Keith said, of what really is driving business value and what capabilities, like I described earlier, is truly market differentiating or a core competency that just needs to become more efficient. You need to understand what really makes your business tick and what really drives value through all of your business and operational workflows, so that when you're building AI solutions or you're trying to agentify a part of that process, it translates into, okay, what is the customer value I'm creating? What is an internal value I'm creating? So I think it's a hard ask. Many organizations we've seen, it could be a conglomerate of a lot of different M&A activity or a lot of discrete homogeneous products. So it takes a lot of strong leadership and like I said earlier, and even an enterprise architect type function to really look holistically at what capabilities you have and then what those underlying goals and metrics are to really show value of what's being innovated or market differentiating. So yeah, I think it's a hard question sometimes for organizations to take a look into themselves, and that's why the trust between business and technology have to be there, because a lot of times you are talking about business functions with their own P&Ls and their own metrics. So it's an all-encompassing view that needs to be created to break down these silos and to really get to that value equation.
No, I think you bring up a lot of great points there. And then even to extrapolate onto it, I just have one final question for you, because This is a common one we hear. We broached it earlier in the AI investment portion. It's just that idea of struggling on how to connect all of these investments and technology spend to the business outcomes. And from your experience working with these large scale organizations, what is really fundamentally separating those that get it right? And what's helping them to make it work and make it a very functional part of their organization?
Yeah, I think the traditional product or project view is no longer going to work, right? You can't just track the delivery activity instead of the business value. So those that are getting it right now, I think, are starting with the outcomes in mind. I think there's more collaboration between the business and technology ownership, making sure that ownership is clear going in, but it's joint. And then measuring value. Value realization is often discussed, but rarely seen. So those that get it right truly do go back and ensure that they're inspecting what they expected. And then if they aren't seeing the results in the time that they expect the results, they're either stopping or redirecting investments that support the right level of return on investment. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably the biggest challenge, is that joint ownership is really critical with gaining success here. This is not IT for IT's sake. This is IT partnering with the business to deliver something of high value.
Just
David, do you have anything?
Sure. So just to add to that, when we align or help organizations, select their OKRs and their objectives across business technology, this not only helps translate between the organization of what good looks like and what value they're trying to create, but also helps when you go down the stack, because a lot of times delivery, the message gets lost, right? When you have different layers of management and you have different goals and different silo teams, a lot of times, it becomes isolated in terms of what is the clear objective, right? It gets to what Keith's saying is a delivery outcome or a milestone, as opposed to translating that delivery into what is it, how is it moving the needle, how is it actually delivering on value. So when you set these ambitions and these goals, it not only helps call it across the organization, but it helps with the depth, because a lot of these large organizations are multi-layered and multifaceted. So it helps break down, like I said, the silos across functions, domains, and technologies, so that you could understand how you're maturing and progressing against your overall business and the outcomes you set to achieve.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate the insights. And just taking a look at the chat, it doesn't look like we have any additional questions at this time, but did want to say a big thank you to both you, Keith and David from Accenture, for joining us, sharing your insights, sharing the experience that you bring, especially to this new and growing area of technology investments. And a big thank you again for those that joined, those who helped put this together. We will send out the recording in a few days, and feel free to reach out to anyone at the Apptio team if you do have any further questions, or feel free to reach out to Keith and David from the Accenture team if you'd like to learn a little bit more. But thank you again for spending some time with us, and really appreciate your attendance for this webinar.
Thanks for having us as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gavin. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.